What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Supergirl Season 4, Episode 6, titled Call to Action. First thing I'll say in this review is that this episode doesn't really have a plot to it, and what I mean by that is that if it did have a plot throughout the episode, it's completely thrown out the window by the end, making the whole thing completely obsolete. So, for instance, this episode started with this whole Agent of Liberty, Children of Liberty thing being built up to these Children of Liberty attacking aliens in the streets, and then the episode continued. I mean, nothing really happened until the Thanksgiving dinner when Brainiac 5 figured out this thing that they were tagging these aliens, and then that built up even more when the Children of Liberty actually went out to attack these houses where they used these trained dogs who were trained to spot aliens or to sniff out aliens. They used those dogs to tag these houses, and all of that was built up rather well. So now these Agents of Liberty, or these Children of Liberty, go out to attack these houses, and it's over in just about a minute. One of these groups, for some reason, goes to Manchester Black's house, even though he's not really an alien. Who knows, maybe they tagged it before his fiance, who was an alien, died. I'm not really sure, but for some reason they go there. They're completely just stopped by one gun, which is kind of stupid. They don't have guns themselves. And then they go to another house where this is the big problem. They beat up one alien, and then they're all killed or stopped by a dragon. So this dragon comes in, and it completely throws the entire storyline out the window. Instead of this Children of Liberty thing being stretched out for a little bit longer, giving it time to resolve itself, give it time to set something up later, and really give it time to be a storyline, a conclusion to a storyline, it's just a dragon that shows up and fights Supergirl. So there are a number of reasons I did not like what they did here. One of them, like I said earlier, like I just said a minute ago, it did not give the storyline time to conclude itself, instead opting for a dragon scene. And second of all, and this is a big thing as well, the dragon figuratively and almost literally comes out of nowhere, which, just saying that, it's ridiculous how bad the writing is for this, because yes, the dragon is there because this alien owns a dragon, and the dragon is here to defend her and her father, but really, if you think about it, the dragon just showed up out of nowhere and fought Supergirl, and that was calmed down by Supergirl. It was ridiculous how they did that. It didn't give time for the storyline to conclude itself, and the dragon came out of nowhere, which is ridiculous if you think about it. And while the CGI for the dragon was good, just think about what they did with the CGI for the dragon. I mean, the CGI for the dragon was really good. It might have been the best CGI for a creature on Supergirl maybe ever, but I really hate that, because the last episode had Parasite and they did not use CGI at all on that character. And so instead of giving CGI to a character that really needed it in the last episode, they gave CGI to a character or a creature that was completely unnecessary, a character or a creature that did not need to be in the episode at all. Like, this isn't something I say very often, but they could have and should have saved their budget by not creating this CGI dragon and just having this storyline be just the Children of Liberty. Maybe stretch out the Children of Liberty storyline just a little bit. It would have given time for the storyline to conclude, saved budget, and this dragon would not have been a huge distraction to the episode. Also, the CGI money they saved could have gone to Parasite in the last episode. It would have made both these episodes so much better, and that's something I completely despise about this episode. So there was also this storyline before that with James and Lena that might have led to the breakup, which, if it did, I know a lot of people who are going to be very happy about that. I mean, not personally, but I know on the internet so many people hate these two characters together, and they're all going to be so happy if this does lead to the breakup, which it seems like it might. My personal opinion about that is I don't really care. I mean, I don't care about either of these characters for the most part, so I don't really care about them being together. It's kind of, they don't really have any chemistry, but I don't care because, I mean, they're just two characters I don't care about, so whenever they're on screen, I don't care anyway. So again, doesn't really matter to me, but if they break up, again, don't really care. The storyline in general in this episode, however, wasn't very good at all. I mean, it was just kind of boring. It didn't connect to any other storyline either. It's very clearly setting up the next episode, but it should have definitely connected to the main storyline. I mean, James literally stopped that from happening, which I think he should not have done. The main storyline should have really been better itself, but maybe if this storyline connected to that one, it could have maybe concluded the storyline a little bit better, but alas, it didn't, and this storyline was kind of boring throughout this episode. There were two storylines in this episode that I thought both of them were just fine, and one of them, which is the one with Colonel Haley, didn't add much to the show. I think the character herself doesn't need to exist on the show. The storyline with her and Alex doesn't need to exist on the show. I feel like it's literally just there to pad the runtime for this episode in particular. Again, it didn't add anything. I don't have any really big complaints about it. Nothing bad happened in it like that annoyed me or anything, but it was completely pointless, and it did not need to exist in this episode. And then there was also the storyline with Lena. She was a part of more than one storyline in this episode, and Eve researching this thing from Season 3. I really don't remember what it was called. I think it was also from Argo City. Season 3, the end of it in particular, was so forgettable that I do not remember what this thing even did in that season at the end. But anyway, they were researching this thing, and in this episode, like I said, it's just a fine thing. I think it definitely added to something. I think it's leading up to giving Manchester Black his powers, because he doesn't have powers. This thing has the ability to give people powers, and the way they cut the episode at the end makes me think that it definitely is for Manchester Black, even though he isn't invincible. He has some sort of mind powers in the comics, so maybe there's going to be some sort of twist with that in this show. But for this storyline in this episode, it was just fine. So I know I've been criticizing this episode quite a lot in this review, but honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. There were a couple things that I did like quite a lot, and I would say this episode is generally better than most episodes this season. So first thing I'll say is the comedy in this episode is actually quite on point. Like, it's mostly from Brainiac 5. He's hilarious in general, and this episode is no exception. He was really funny, although he does have this one fight scene that was, in my opinion, terribly done. The way they handled it was that they wanted to make it seem like he's using physics to defeat these guys, but the way they cut it and the way they put the music behind it and the way they shot it, it was so terribly done. They should have just done one take or one shot without cutting at all. It just would have looked cooler. So although Brainiac 5 is hilarious in this episode, he does have this one fight scene that I thought was pretty terrible. But then there's also Manchester Black, who I thought was great in this episode. This episode really built him up to become maybe like the opposite of Agent Liberty, where Agent Liberty is extreme to one point, Manchester Black will be extreme to the other point. That could be pretty cool in this episode or in this season, and that was really built up well in this episode. And then the best part of this episode by far was the debate between Ben Lockwood and Kara Danvers. So this debate was written surprisingly well. What might have been one of the best things the writers on this show have written, and while that's not saying much, it is still something. I feel like they really enjoy writing for Ben Lockwood so much more than any other character on this show, and I get it. He feels like a fun character to write for, especially with the comeback they gave him in this debate. It was awesome. It honestly gave me chills at the end, how he came back to Kara and obviously clearly won this debate. And it's one of those villains that he is in the right, but the way he goes about things is completely off, that you kind of relate to him, but you kind of go against him, it just usually makes for a good villain. And I think they're actually doing quite a good job with this villain in particular, and this debate definitely shows that, where he won the debate easily, and he is in the right with his ideology, in my opinion at least, but the way he goes about it is completely off base. It's kind of like Manchester Black in this episode, but also completely the opposite. But again, this debate easily the best part of the episode, and even though it doesn't fit into the storyline very well, in my opinion, it is still easily the best written thing that the Supergirl writers have done, maybe ever, or maybe in a really long time, because honestly I don't remember the last time they did something that was written this well. So, in conclusion, this episode had a lot of things going against it, like the structure of the episode, the fact that the plot was completely thrown out the window, the fact that the dragon was completely unnecessary, and the fact that James and Lena's storyline was so boring. But then there were a couple things that were great as well, like Brainiac 5 was hilarious, Manchester Black was pretty dope, and the debate between Ben Lockwood and Kara Danvers was great as well. And even though the dragon was unnecessary, the CGI for him was very good. So I will give this episode a 6.5 out of 10. Definitely not a good episode, but it is one of the better episodes of the season yet, which is so sad when you think about it. But anyway, let me know all your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.